my name is Jodi Ladetzky. I've been a Weston A Price member probably for about 12, 13 years. And it's amazing, and it's such a big part of my life. I've raised my three kids, and very as close to the Western Price principles as possible, while living in a an everyday traditional living community. Sending my kids to public schools. I feel very fortunate. My middle child was Western Price from birth, and he's just like turned into this beautiful, tall man. He's 14 now. I mean, it's unbelievable. He's 6'1", and his jaw is like super wide. He has this like huge face, and I 100% owe it all to this amazing way that we eat. And I find it to be like just the biggest gift that I've found in my life. I really feel fortunate. I'm a holistic nutrition consultant, and I work mostly with families, and I help mamas and dads, and I teach them how to feed their children. And I mostly like focus on breakfast, and I think it's really important to start the day in like a super calm way. And there's like tricks and there's ways to eat that can maximize the child's like most calm for their day. And I think it's really important for everyone to be able to have that opportunity to succeed. Since quarantine, I've been doing lots of Zooms, and we've been making sourdough bread. I've taught over like 200 people how to make sourdough. It's really special. The idea of these microbes, and that they're living, and we get to take care of them, and finally we get this like beautiful gift from them, this like beautiful bread, and everyone gets to make. I've taught a lot of people how to make sauerkraut as well during quarantine, and it's been so much fun. It's people are really getting to learn about the microbes, and they're so special because they could sing to you, and they're a part of you, like they're your environment. And we use our hands, and we get to like keep them on our counter and watch them and open it up and have sneak a little taste along the way. And it just becomes like a part of you that's not you, and then you get to eat it, and it like becomes such a big part of who you are. So there's so many like double connections of really like incorporating this groove of these microbes in your environment and into your everyday living. With sauerkraut, I take great pride in my cabbage that I choose. I usually go to the farmer's market to get my cabbage, or growing it is like super special. And I really like to use the entire cabbage. When we peel it and cut it, I like to keep the core. So instead of using like a fancy fermenting tool, a block or anything, I actually like to use the core to keep the cabbage down. And I just like to keep it as natural as possible. So when we do cut our cabbage, I'm going to ask you to save your core and to save your outer leaves. I think it's really important if everyone who's making cabbage today can kind of pick up their cabbage and just take a moment. It's heavy, it's cold, it's like it's life. Like, if you look closely, you see all these beautiful grains in there, veins. I mean, it's like our bloodline. Like, there's so much connection to the human body, and like we grew this. I mean, how amazing is that? Like, it's amazing. This beautiful ball of energy and life, and when we ferment it, it turns into a totally different form. Like, all the nutrients that are in here, the fermentation makes it like a billion times more available, the vitamin C. There's so many great things that you get from fermenting the cabbage. So without further ado, I will we'll start by cutting our cabbage. I'm going to turn my camera down a little bit as I cut it, and then we can we can keep chatting as I cut it. We'll take a moment. If you have any questions like during this time, just while we cut it, feel free to ask. In the meantime, I do like just to show you here. I do peel off the first couple pieces, and I put them aside because I do use these guys to keep the cabbage immersed in its liquid. So I use what we have here. So if you could peel off your first couple peels and put them aside, we're not going to cut these. And then if you cut your cabbage in half, I'll show you, and we'll save our core as well. So we'll just take a little moment. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and we'll get into why sauerkraut is so important for our bodies. So here we go as we cut. Karen, if anything comes up, now before we really start, please feel free. All right. So here we are. I do like to cut my cabbage in half. I just want to say while we're cutting the cabbage that I like to use my hands and I like to use a knife. I do not use a shredder, or I do not put it in a machine. I think it's really important for the microbes in my hands to get on the cabbage. I think when you cut it by hand, you're more connected to your cabbage and your ferments. And the idea of shredding it with a machine brings in other elements like the metals, and you just want to, and it really creates a really fine shred. And I think you can over ferment your sauerkraut if you use a machine. So I think it's really important to make your cabbage by hand. So I usually just kind of do like a little V, and I take out my core right here, and I put it on the side. And I'll do the same here. There we go. Okay. And then I just go with it. Like, I like to kind of go thin. Can you see okay? Yeah. I like to go thin. I'll show you guys. It's, not super thin, just like a nice width. And you're welcome to keep it like the same length as your cabbage. You're welcome to cut it in half. And for me, it's neither like here nor there how you cut it. People cut it like much thicker than other people. I think it's really fine, however you decide to do it. So, we'll slice our cabbage as we go along here. And let's see, I just want to take a moment, just slice the cabbage, and then we could have a little more of a chat as well. We slice the cabbage. I kind of put it straight into my bowl. Like this. All right. See, some of you have kids there, definitely saw a kid there. I just want to say making sauerkraut with kids is, they really get into it. And then they get to eat it. They kind of learn to love it that way. It's a fun activity to make with the children. So kudos to you, because it's great making sauerkraut with kids. All right, here we go. I have a rule of thumb. After I shred my cabbage, I like to kind of just spread it out, and then I use fine salt that's fine. I think it works easier with the cabbage, and I use a tablespoon of salt per cabbage. So that's 1 tablespoon of salt per cabbage. For me, if it's a big cabbage or a small cabbage, I keep it at 1 tablespoon of salt. So I don't worry about like weighing it and analyzing it that way. And then I take my salt and I sprinkle all around. Try and get the top of the cabbage. Okay. Now for this, for the sake of this class, we're kind of doing it all at once. But on a regular basis, when it's just me and I'm home and I'm making my kraut, I like to do this exact stage. Take a moment with my cabbage. I like to slice it. I like to put my bowl and put the salt on. And then I usually put it aside for a couple hours because it does take work and a lot of time to really work the cabbage. And we want it to immerse itself in its own liquid. So I find that letting the cabbage sit on my counter for a couple hours, it could even be like the majority of the day and coming back to it in the evening, makes it easier for me to pound it and put it in its jar. So we're just going to just let it sit for a little bit, and we could talk a little bit about sauerkraut and why it's so awesome. First of all, sauerkraut ferments it dates like so far back. I mean, 6,000 BC or so. It was like it was one of our like first forms of preserving food, and you see it in art, historical art. You see it, read it in the books. It was a way for people to save their crops and have food like throughout the year. It was like buried in the ground. It was done in so many different like traditional ways. One hears stories about the travelers over the seas that traveled, and they had their cabbage, their sauerkraut, and that was like their main food. And none of the sailors would get sick, whereas like all the other sailors would get sick, and it was a disaster. So there's all these beautiful medicinal stories, early stories about the cabbage. We have to think about our bodies. I like to think of our like digestive tract as a rainforest. There's so many different plants that make up this beautiful rainforest. And we need a bit of, everything. Like we need a bit of this plant and that plant and like hundreds of different plants to make this rainforest like complete and it to work in nature. And it's the same thing with our bodies. We when we eat foods that are fermented, we get our ferments in so many different ways. Like we can, we don't even realize sometimes with the foods that we're eating, we're getting ferments, and the body's still getting it. But when you're working towards it, it's very important to eat a variety of ferments, so you can populate your digestion with all these different microbes. So you can have like a super thriving digestive tract. And once your digestive tract is thriving, I mean, it's totally connected to your brain, to your thoughts, it's your happiness. I mean, the microbes there's more microbes in your body than human cells in your body. So it's very important to eat these ferments and populate your body with them. I say this, but at the same time, we do live in a modern world, and majority of us don't have like all the best microbes in our bodies. All of us have, all sorts of things going on. So you have to be very careful when you eat your sauerkraut too. You can't just eat like a ton of sauerkraut because there's a die-off. The microbes are super powerful. and they have a job to do when they enter your system. They go in there and they want to like repopulate with themselves, but they have to kill the unhealthy microbes. And when they kill the unhealthy microbes, those guys need to die, and then they need to slowly leave your system. And to do that, they could cause like all sorts of issues. You know, if you're dealing with someone that is on the autism spectrum, it could increase like your tics. It could really zone one out. You could get, you know, it could bother your skin. All sorts of things can happen. Rashes. So it's you need to really honor your sauerkraut and all the ferments that you eat, because they are very, very powerful. So you really have to take pride in making them, and also take pride in eating them, and respect it and go slow. The sauerkraut is it's full of vitamin C, which is really important, especially today with everything that's going on. When the virus started, I told my kids, you know, it's a ferment a day. That's what we're doing, and it's you know, it's powerful stuff. Like it does beautiful things to us. Sauerkraut has like there's so many different forms. Like you can there's a kimchi, which is like so traditional in Japanese culture. Korean culture. There's you know, just in general, like just all the different ferments. There's miso. There's all these cultures. They have all these beautiful ferments, and you know, here in America, it's just kind of like we need to bring that into our culture and to make it more a part of our everyday. And it's you know, we're lucky we have like the kombucha that you see at all the grocery stores. That's so awesome. And you go to the farmers markets and you see like kefir and all sorts of things out there these days. Yogurt, you know, so it's there. But it just is so important for it to be acknowledged and used more in a respected and medicinal way for a purpose of nourishing our bodies. So you know, we can take a moment and you know, feel free to ask any questions. While we're asking the questions, if anybody wants to add anything to their kraut, it's a good time to cut a few things up. You know, you could add anything from carrots to my family really likes garlic kraut. Once my daughter, my 17-year-old, was like, "Mom, I love the garlic kraut." I'm fine. That's all I'll make. If you guys are eating the garlic kraut, I'll make. That's all I'll make for you. And then the other day, I had some beautiful grass-fed hot dogs, and I wasn't home. And then I came home later, and my husband, when I came home with one of the kids, and they're like, "What's for dinner?" And my husband's like, "Oh yeah, you know, make sure you have the kraut with the hot dog. It's just like that's the way you got to have it." So it's just like it melts my heart when I hear it from you know, everyone in my family that how, you know, how they enjoy the kraut as well. So it's, you really get to a place where you know, you want it, like, you know, your body like needs it and wants it, and it's an extension of you. Like you know, to have your kraut sitting on your counter and you get to like, it's another baby that you get to take care of. And I really I love it, and I really honor like the idea of the connection between the body and the person and the environment and the kraut. Whenever I move into a new house or you know, something kind of weird is going on, I always think to myself, you know, I'm gonna make some kraut and let's just see how it turns out. Or sometimes I'll make a little kombucha and see if it turns out nicely. And if it's a little moldy or something's off, I'm like, we got to freshen up the space. So it's a test. It's an environmental test as well, which I think is really cool. Anyways, anything you want to add, you could add, I saw some of our parsley. You could add all sorts of greens. You could add onions, garlic, jalapeno, all sorts of things you could really add to your sauerkraut. So if you want to take a moment and ask anything, and I'm going to spend a little time cutting up my garlic that I'm going to add. I'll use a whole head of garlic to a head of cabbage. It gets real garlicky. That's kind of how we like it. The truth is, you can't really mess up at all. So I would just go with it. Like visually, whatever you think looks nice, I would do. But there's no adding too much or too little at all. I like to add, I'm going to add about just short of a head to my head of cabbage. And I like to just cut it with my knife. It's so powerful. And with the ferments, the microbes, they kind of eat it a little. They eat the carbs in there. They eat the sugars. I just cut it. I'll show you. I just cut the garlic with my knife. I'm not I'll give it a little smush down. I'll just kind of go like this. I don't use the grater for any ferments because it just makes it too fine. So, except I do use my carrot peel when I peel my carrots sometimes. When I add the carrots, it just makes it like. Otherwise, it's just unless I slice it, just makes it a little easier. But I really like to use a knife and get my hands in there. I think that's it's a nice way. It's a nice way to do it. Yeah. So there's really no rule of thumb to the add-ons. It's just kind of personal to whatever it is you like. So much of our everyday living takes that away. Just walking by your neighbor who sprays Roundup. I mean, you've lost a microbe. Done. Like anything. I mean, walking in the grocery store, especially now with COVID, like everyone's spraying stuff, clean this and that. All of the the hand sanitizer. Such an important time for us to create our our garden. It's huge. This is the most important time to grow your garden. And the microbes, like they control us. We're so much more microbes, as I said, and they really, if we're not full of more like healthy microbes, it's not beneficial. Like they really make us who we are as people. They control our moods. They control so much of our thoughts and our appetites. They really are. Like they make our they create our happy hormones. Like they're just it's unbelievable what the microbes do to the body. And I mean, we're not even talking about how they keep the gut wall so healthy. Like you have to have beautiful, happy microbes to keep your gut wall strong, so it won't be leaky. And that's a big thing. I mean, many of us have leaky guts. It's just a part of our world today. Nothing like necessarily of what we've done, just our environment and foods we eat, whatever it is. And especially if we're not eating the beneficial microbes, like so much gets through the gut, like particles of foods, all sorts of things get into our bloodstream that wouldn't necessarily get into our bloodstream if our microbes and our digestive tract was healthy. So there's so many long-term benefits from eating these fermented foods. It should be a part of everyday living, and one doesn't need to eat much, which is so nice. I tell my clients and my kids, and like, have just like a little strain a day. Like that's all you need. Like, you don't need to take down like your jar immediately. Like you just need like just a little teeny touch every day. It does the job. So really, it's just like simple. We just take it like it's our supplements. It's our medicine, and like that's the lovely way to look at it. Yeah. And we see now with this this COVID, some of the countries that are really thriving. You know, like I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Germany with all their kraut, like they're I think doing much better. A lot of like some of these like Japan and Korea, like those countries are doing good with like lots of their ferments. So the countries that have ferments in their everyday diets are doing much better than the other ones, and more of a cultural thing. So I think that's really important to add to our diets. Yeah, I mean, they do so much. Another thing about the sauerkraut is it's their enzyme. You build your enzymes when your microbes are healthy. So sorry about that. It helps you digest your foods, which is so awesome. You know, and really, there's so many. There's immunity. It's enzymes. It's vitamin C. It's there's antibiotic substances in ferments. I mean, there's so much going on. So it's really a food that should not be missed. So you can't have enough of the ferment of any type of probiotic that comes your way. So it is very important. You know, as long as you can sustain it, it is very important to get a mix. But I mean, the cabbage just offers so many things. The soil, where it was grown, it adds so much to it. With the apple, I would check it after. I actually like people to kind of taste their kraut, especially if you're like an early beginner kraut maker. Every 3 days or so, I believe in opening it and just letting whatever needs to come out, gas-wise, come out. And having a little taste, because it changes as the weeks go on. So with the apple, you know, and without the apple, just taste it every 3 days. I don't think it necessarily changes the ferment time. They love the apple because it's like a pure like sugar for the microbes, so they eat it and they love it. It's like an extra boost. You almost think like you'll get more microbes if you add some fruit in there. So I would still give it the same amount of time, 2 weeks, and open it every 3 days just to kind of get a little visual and taste. I love this question because this is one of my favorite things. I look at the digestive tract and the stomach. It's like it's your flame. It's your stomach is it's your fire. Like it is so powerful, that hydrochloric acid, and that is like your first stage of digestion, and obviously after your mouth, so your second, or maybe your third if you smell, but in the stomach is like where things like really break down and so much happens, and the hydrochloric acid is so powerful. So for some people, they need to need a little kindling for their hydrochloric acid, and as we age, our hydrochloric acid is less than when we're younger. So you can use your kraut as a kindler. And it's like you could use herbs, you could use anything that kind of has a bit of it. Kraut is used as like a kindling factor as well. So you do find people that specifically eat their kraut ahead of a meal, 30 minutes to 45 minutes ahead of a meal, especially if they know they're going to have meats or a big protein, heavy protein meal. You will find people specifically eating their kraut to help kindle their HCl, their fire, their flame, their life so much, so they can digest their foods better. So there's that thing with that is a real use for fermented foods. But besides that, I just like to keep it on the table and have it with our meals. So, breakfast, lunch, dinner, if you can figure out a way to eat it 3 times a day, I don't recommend that for a beginner ferment eater. For a beginner ferment eater, you know, I like to just have it a little bit in the morning and slowly like work up and get to a tablespoon. Could take you a year without any signs to get to a tablespoon. It's true as well with probiotics. If anyone takes probiotics, they could really affect one. I tell all my little kids, like, you know, if you're going to take a pill, the mama is like, you just give them a little bit to start, and you slowly work up so their bodies can handle it. So I think it's the same thing. You really got to respect these heavy microbes. If you are like no issues and you're a total ferment eater, like more the merrier. I mean, have it as your snack. Have it whenever you can. You cannot eat too much. Yeah. So, but it's fun to use it as like an aid in digestion as well. I like that whole kindling thing. Yeah. So just grab. What we want to do, you could use something like a, you know, like a little bit of like a tool to help you pound your cabbage. You know, slowly. It takes time. You could kind of hammer along like this. I do find when I do, you know, the cabbage like in this amount of time, it's harder to get your liquid. But basically, if you just want to spend a little time, I usually do not put my add-ins into my bowl just yet. I'll do it once I kind of get some liquid going. So really, we're just using our fists. We're using our hands. We're going to squeeze. We're going to hammer. We're going to do everything we can to get the natural liquid out of the cabbage. Everyone is going to have a different experience here. Some cabbages are going to give you a ton of water, liquid. Some cabbages are going to give you very little. But let's just work it as much as we can. It's not a problem. I'm completely okay with adding fermented filtered water to to help the process as well, because we have our salt and that's the activator. We are softening it. We're starting to work it. So let's just spend, we might spend 20 minutes or so really hammering and banging and working your cabbage. It doesn't take, it changes quickly. Like I'm starting to get I haven't even gotten a little drop yet, but I feel my hands are wet. So I do not add whey because the salt gives it a nice activator. You can add a little bit of whey if you want to add a little bit of whey. I like to save my whey for other things. Either way with the whey. I'm getting a little bit of water now, which is great. For me to sit there and just work, sometimes you got to work it like a lunatic because you've had a crazy day and thank God you got something to punch. And it could be the kraut. And you know what? That kraut may have that energy as well. It's really important to take a moment and, put your shoulders back and just enjoy it. Like breathe in, squeeze it, and breathe out. Kind of get another scoop. Breathe in. Yeah, just got to kind of really keep it in a really special. When you really take your time and you honor your kraut, you always get good kraut, no matter what. Okay, so mine's kind of getting there. Many people like to use crops when they make kraut. I do enjoy using a crock as well, but at the same time, I like to use a mason jar because I like to be able to keep a nice eye on it. I don't ferment it for too long, and I don't like to spend a whole day making my kraut. I like to just very easily be able to do a cabbage, slice a cabbage, put some salt on it, put it aside, get like 2 or 3, mason jars full, and then in like a week or so, do it again. So I like to get lots of different flavors. When you do a big kraut, you kind of mostly have like one flavor, a big crop, which is great too. So it's even though I do mostly do the garlic, I like to do it more of like everyday living and make it kind of accessible for anyone to be able to do. And I also like to, sneak in like a little mason jar along the way. And if I have extra, I like to give it away. It's a lovely gift to give someone, just like a touch of your sauerkraut. So starting here, we're starting to really get the liquid. So you do find kraut tops like with that release in it. I'm sure some of you have seen them. Since I do open it every couple of days, I just let it do its thing like that. I don't think those things are necessary, and I don't think you really need to release too much. To be honest, I think you need to respect that these are living beings, and they do grow and multiply, and they let off gases. And those gases, first of all, like they make sounds. So some days they're like really noisy, and it's so beautiful to hear them sing to you. And other days there's nothing, and they actually, a lot of the time they will leak through your mason jar. So sometimes I know I filled it too high, but I really like to kind of stop it at like a certain point, because it does grow on you anyway. So I don't fill my mason jars too high, and I think it works. Like I don't worry about having to. We're home fermenters. We're not like it's very like it's like we're being a home sourdough baker. No matter what, it's going to be awesome. So I just kind of do it in the mason jar. If I forget to open it, it's no big deal. I don't feel like I need to worry about releasing the gases as like a home fermenter. I just keep it super simple and enjoy, the products I have and doing it at home. It's very personal how much one can handle. As I said, if you're a beginner, go really, really slow. You could eat a loaf of sourdough and have some kraut, and you could mix it up. You could drink some kefir. People mix it up all the time. I wouldn't worry about that, because it's they offer different microbes, and they're great, like nutrient dense foods, and that's better than not. So I don't think if you're showing no signs of irritation, I think you should feel comfortable, like having yogurt, having whatever you want whenever you want it, if you can handle it. I don't know so much of the scientific details. It's the way I've been doing it for many years. You could get into all that, if it works for you. I don't think that really matters. Like I think everybody has their own way of fermenting. Like there's no such thing as my ferments are more than your ferments, my microbes. It's your own personal way, and if it works for you, it works for you. And if it doesn't, you find your other method that works. So especially with sauerkraut, because the aerobics, like all that stuff, like it's funny because it's multi-dimensional, and this is something not like something else, because this breaks down the cabbage, but at the same time it creates growth. It like creates life. So you're breaking something down to create this life. So it's a world of its own anyway. And you could be in the lab, and you could look at all that type of stuff, but the fermentation is happening. It may not be happening to the extent of someone that's doing it, a specific way, 30 days. But it's still a beautiful ferment, and it's your ferment, and it works, and it's happening. There is no right or wrong way to ferment anything. If you can figure out a way to do it your own way, you've got it, and it works. So that's one of the magical things about the microbes, is that it works for everybody, however you want to do it. So yeah, I mean, even like, if you want to, maybe it like probably after like 5 days, you get things really start happening. You can be done at that point. Like, there's so many ways one can do it, but if it works for you, it works for you. And if you want to enjoy it from a scientific point of view, like, another thing is, I like to keep mine on the counter, like in plain sight. You're gonna find lots of people that put it in the cupboard in the dark. Like, I think it's really important, like, for me to see my sauerkraut every day, my ferments every day. I talk to them, I look at them, I analyze them, they're part of our, like, life and our everyday living, and they see my kids and we see them, like, so it works however you want to do it. It will work beautifully. Yeah. If that made, yeah. So hopefully that made sense. It's hard for the person that is like detail oriented and scientific, just to kind of let go and just realize, like, it's it's all good. You can't mess it up. Yeah. So, all right. So I feel like I'm in a really good place here. And I'm just gonna throw my my garlic in. And I like to do it. No big deal if you put in your additions before. I just personally like to work it before I work the cabbage before I add anything. It makes it easier. It's a hard, depending on your cabbage, this is the hardest part. Okay. If anyone feels like they're not getting enough liquid, I'm pushing it down here. That's why I'm feeling like really comfortable and it's covering it. Yeah, so I like to get as much liquid as I can, and I have no problem adding filtered water to my kraut. So, the most important thing is to make sure your kraut is covered in liquid, and if you just can't do it, pour a little filtered water on top of it. You want to keep all of your energy calm when you ferment. You don't want to start and get all anxious. Oh my God, I don't have enough water. You just want to go with the flow. So it's fine to add the filtered water. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to pour a touch of this water from in here, just a little. Just going to use this. Okay, I feel real good with this one here. And I'm going to take my my core, and I'm going to use that to keep it down. And I kind of like to keep my core submerged as well. And there we go. I mean, I think this is pretty awesome. Like, the core is submerged, everything's submerged. And I have no problem using these white, beautiful caps. It's not going to touch the plastic one bit. They're clean. I'm going to put my lid on. But now this is the most important rule. You have to put a piece of tape on your lid. And you need to label your krauts. Because, I mean, tomorrow, like in 2 days from now, you're going to say, oh my God, what did I fit in there? Like, this is my favorite kraut I've ever made. I have no idea what I put in that kraut. So you put the date on it. Today is the 23rd. Wait, I'm using a silver pen, so sorry if you don't see it. And all I put is, this is just a garlic kraut. Garlic kraut. So I cannot stress how important it is to put a label on your kraut. If I could teach you anything today, label your ferments, please. So there we go. You know, I can open it up again if you want to see it. But it's, I'll do another one. It's super submerged and it's great. And I literally leave it on my counter. I have a little spot back there. I have fermented ketchup there right now. I have some fermented salmon I make there right now. And it just sits there. And I like look at them every day and I enjoy them all the time. So, so yeah, keep it on the counter. I enjoy it, and they enjoy us, and I think they, you know, they hear us. I will say, this guy, even though I kind of, you could see, I did put the cabbage kind of up to here, and then I put the you know, I stopped it with the core. This one might leak a little bit. I don't have a problem with leakage either. I usually put my krauts on a little tray. Yeah, I mean, I like it when it leaks. I see the life, things are happening. So, you know, maybe if it leaks, I'll open it and I'll give it a little smush down again. But it shows me that they're busy and they're having fun and they're living and things are moving. So I don't mind a little leakage. Use the core as a weight. It is there to make sure that the kraut is submerged in the liquid. So even though we open it up to taste and do a few things, it's always submerged in the liquid. So yeah, so that's why you always want to use some form of a weight to keep your ferment down. Whatever, you know, but with the carrots and also with the krauts. Alex, your carrots should be ready in like 3 days or so because you shredded it. If you didn't shred it, I would say, you know, a good 2 weeks as well. So the shredding makes things go real fast. And just to show you, you know, you could keep your outer leaves, which I also like to do, and I use these for a weight. I'll just fold it over like this. I'll just, you know, oh, this might need to take a little out. Okay. And I just kind of put it in there. And this the weight I like to have submerged as well. Because, you know, if you don't, you will get a little moldy on the weight. I use it in beet kvass. I use it with my ginger carrots a lot. I use it with most other vegetables, to be honest. I don't know. Sometimes I'll make like a random jam, and I'll throw like a fig, or you know, some type of like jammy something, and I'll throw the whey in there. Kind of most things that the brine doesn't work for, I use the whey. So yeah, you could like really everything else. You can use whey, and also use it in sauerkraut if you want to. You know, whey does bring in an element of dairy. So some people that you know don't want the dairy or have a bit of a hard time with it, you know, it could be a little harder for them. Grated carrots are, you know, it's a pure sugar like carb, and you grate it, and it goes real quick. The ferment's like it's real fast. So you know, you could do it, and but just be on top of it and put it in the fridge in like 3 days. Maybe you'll enjoy it, as it might get a little stringy because like sometimes with carrots, like when you grate them, yeah, you might just use them in like another dish to cook with, or use as a little bit of a condiment. You'll see, but don't, you know, you might enjoy them, you might not enjoy them. I love making sauerkraut. I really do. That's the gift. I mean, it's all as special as could be, but this was so easy. Like it's anyone can make sauerkraut. Anybody can make sauerkraut. Um, I love to make sourdough bread, and I cherish it. And I got my starter right here with me. Like it's a part of my life all the time. Um, but there's a magic in making kraut, and I think you can share that, and if so you could get someone else to enjoy like a spoonful of kraut. It's magical, and they create so many beneficial nutrients that it's a real gift to Mother Earth what kraut does. So it's just cabbage and it's thyme and it nourishes your body so beautifully. I mean, hands down, like I love the kraut. It's my favorite for sure. Well, I just want everyone to acknowledge that making a ferment and eating a ferment is very powerful, and every it's if you make it, it's a part of you, and I find that really like special. Um, and it's living, like it's real life. These are like living beings, and you're taking care of them, and you should really like respect them and treat them like you want to be treated, and let them be in your presence, and talk to them and listen to them talk to you. I think that that adds a lot to your ferments. I They are alive, and they really are a huge part of what make us us. So you gotta respect that when you eat them. Um, they do a lot of work inside of your body. If you're not capable of handling all of that, just respect that. Like know that they threw you off or whatever it was, and just go very slow when you eat your ferments. They're not for everybody. To start off with a quick, a lot and quick at once. Just go slow and enjoy it, and have it with your meals. Have a little bit of a ferment every single day to really build you up. And it's no fault of our own, the situation that our bodies are in. It's our world today. It's our environment. It's our friends. I mean, we don't want to take away like living and our happiness and socializing, and sometimes those could lead to not the best choices. But that's that's life, and life sometimes you can't always do the best for yourself, but at home you just can do those few things that nourish you and the people around you. That's all we can do, and we really need to be on top of that. I think it's important. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, thank you all for all your awesome questions and for the time, and I hope it was good. You learned, and it's special. Like these are living beings, and it's really cool to think of what they do inside of you.